The Hawks beat the Nashville Predators 6-2 at the United Center. 4 points for Ryan Donato and 5 other Blackhawks with multi-point games, including the pond hockey man himself, Connor Bedard. We'll talk about the win next on the CHGO Blackhawks postgame show. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Victory Lounge. I'm Jay Zawaski. Greg Boysen is here. Mario Tirabassi is going to join us from the United Center in about a half hour. Hawks beat Nashville 6-2, as we mentioned there in the cold open, as they call it in the business. A 4-point night, 2 goals and 2 assists for Ryan Donato and 5 other Hawks with multi-point games. Seth Jones, a goal and an assist. Alex Vlasic, 2 assists. Teuvo Teravainen, 2 assists. Frank Nazar, a goal and an assist. Connor Bedard, a goal and an assist. That is a good night, and we are here to talk about it. If you enjoyed that outcome, do us a favor, hit that like button for us. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. And if you're listening on the Good Old Fashioned Podcast, follow, subscribe, rate, all that great stuff. We'd really appreciate that, especially a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Greg, I fail to think of a more satisfying game than that one.
That was a good one, for sure. I think in all the times I've sat in this chair for post-game shows, there have been very few that we didn't have to sweat out. You know, we've done some wins, but there have been very few where going into the third period, you're like, all right, this one's over. Let's start the show.
Yeah, just a matter of time.
We've had a lot of games where it's been the other way. We knew the game was over, but it's because the Hawks were losing 5-1. But great game. This is what, rallying the troops, pulling up the socks.
That was a new one from Banger. I never heard you pulled your socks up tonight.
I'm going to have to get an explanation from him next time I see him, what exactly that means. But, Jason Dickinson out of the game, going to be gone for a little while. And, you rally around him. You come out and you listen, the Predators are a bad hockey team. I don't know how they're this bad. They're a dead team. They've got nothing. This is their 6th loss in a row. So, how many times, though, this year have the Blackhawks played a game like they did against Edmonton on Wednesday where you get a team like that to overtime. You don't win, but you're feeling good. And then, here comes a lesser team. Here comes a team that's now only 3 points ahead of you in the standings.
Yeah.
And how many times have they piddled down their leg and lost that game 4-1?
And I mean, that is the frustration from us so many times this year has been they play well against the good teams. They play like ass against the bad teams. And when people say, why do you get so upset when they lose? Because we see it there. And I love the fact that in this game, there was no slow start. There was no slowdown. I think in the third, they took their foot off the gas a little bit. They got a late power play, put the second unit out there, fine, whatever, right? But, it was not just sit back and wait and wait and wait and wait. And I think Darren Pang made a good point during the third period talking about how Nashville has struggled so much. They've got a lot of new faces. And no matter how talented those new faces are, it takes guys time to learn how to play with each other.
That's true, but it's February.
There's no doubt about it. But I think we said that for the Hawks we did. We had similar conversations about the Hawks.
Teuvo and Pertuzzi, but those guys
they figured it out eventually.
Stamkos is having a pretty good season.
Yes, he is.
He's leading the team in power play goals, game-winning goals. The guy that's been trash has been Marchessault.
Yeah.
Shea's been bad too.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were the darlings of the offseason. Barry Trotz.
Well, and they were coming off a great year last year too, so It was they finished as strong as they did last season. Then they add 3 of the top probably 10 free agents available.
When you look at that, what is that between Marchessault and Stamkos? 4, 5 Stanley Cups between the two of them. But, Barry Trotz was being hailed, and he beat Jim Nill for winning the offseason, ending Jim Nill's 18-year streak. But it hasn't worked out. I don't know. Maybe the Florida Panthers were onto something when they told Andrew Burnett to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
It's worked out for them pretty well.
Yeah, $21 million paid between Stamkos, Marchessault, and Brady Shea.
And they go out and they get rid of Askarov. They trade Phil Tomasino.
And Phil Thompson.
Yeah. No, he's still here.
Never. We're never trading Phil.
They've given up some young guys, who was the guy they lost to Seattle last year on waivers? Another first-round pick. But look at their recent first-round picks. It's been no development there. Remind you of somebody? So, yeah. Oh, well.
Eli Tolvanen.
That's who it is. Yeah. That guy. But this is a team you should beat, and they beat them soundly. Like, they get that goal from Nazar, and then 20 seconds later, they give it right back, and you're like, oh, no, here we go again.
Yeah.
But after that, it was all Blackhawks.
I actually texted Petey, our buddy Steve Peters, about that goal because after watching hockey for 35 years or however long I've been watching hockey, I didn't really understand what was going on with Mrazek on that goal because it looked like Martinez had there was no shot going to come there. It was going to be a pass for sure. And what Petey said was it looked like Mrazek kind of toe picked. Maybe he had like a little stumble or an equipment issue as he's trying to slide across because 99 of 100 times you're going to see that goalie just square up to the shooter and stop it easily. The way Martinez defended it, but kind of tripped up. And aside from that, they played a very, very solid 60 minutes, which is great.
PK was great. Again, without Jason Dickinson, their top penalty kill guy. Jason Dickinson, the most shorthanded time among the forwards this season. The most shorthanded faceoffs, the most faceoffs, period, on this team. And they kill off the penalties without Dickinson. And kind of the fun thing, they put Nazar on that in Dickinson's spot between Tavo and Mikheyev.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the shutdown line tonight. Who was out there against the Stamkos Forsberg line all night?
That's right. 2 games in a row, the
Mr.
Bedard line.
Hockey himself.
Yep.
Playing some defense. Now, if it was still Bedard, Nazar, and Bertuzzi, they probably don't get that matchup.
I wouldn't think so.
Having Donato and Slaggert probably has a lot to do with it. But if you're going to get this kid to play better defensively, what better way to do it than put him out there against the other team's top lines? Trial by fire. It's the only way to get better.
I mean, they did well against McDavid. I know that was more necessity because of Draisaitl, but hey, it's 2 for 2 against 2 pretty good star-loaded lines.
Coach, trust from your head coach can go a long way in a young player's confidence.
100%. All right, we want to tell you about the 3 stars of the game, so then we can tell you about the 4-star of the game. You can vote for that on the poll on our YouTube. We'll tell you the winner at the end of the show. Number 3 star, Frank Nazar. He had a goal and an assist. Also had 4 shots on goal and 5 shot attempts. Number 2 star, Seth Jones, had a goal and assist, 21:54 of ice time, 3 shots, 5 shot attempts, 2 hits, and 4 block shots. Another day at the office for him. And obviously your number 1 star of the game, Ryan Donato, 2 goals, 2 assists, +2, 19:02 of ice time, 4 shots, 7 shot attempts, a hit, and 1-6, and lost 2 for 75% of his faceoffs. Solid game from him. So here are your nominees for the 4-star of the game. Connor Bedard had a goal and an assist, +2, 19:03 of ice time, 3 shots on goal, a hit, and went 50%, 4 and 4 from the faceoff dot. Alex Vlasic had 2 assists, was a +3 in 22:50 of ice time, 2 shot attempts, and 3 block shots. Also had a takeaway, and Teuvo Teravainen with 2 assists, 16:10 of ice time, 2 shots, and a block shot. I feel like we probably could have thrown Landon Slaggert in there as well. But those 3 are your nominees for 4-star. Get that vote in, and we'll reveal the winner at the end of the show.
According to Seth Jones, Ryan Donato is hotter than burnt toast right now. That's the quote from the locker room.
That's an interesting. Boy, we are full of weird metaphors.
Pulling
today.
up socks and burning toast, baby.
Hotter than burnt toast.
Whatever it takes.
I thought it was Brady Shea's nickname after that goal, that second goal of his.
TJ Brody's nickname.
I mean, hey, you know what? He's the least of the problems right now. It is just so nice to be able to look at a game and look top to bottom. Everyone had a pretty solid night. There's very few wrong with this game. Even Bertuzzi, who took that penalty, that was he's going for the puck.
He hit the guy's stick, then the puck, then the guy's foot. But whatever. Yeah, sure. No, I mean, and yes, you're playing a bad team. You're playing a bad team who's lost 5 in a row coming into this game. Which is what you should do.
Right.
Like, no one's anointing this team as, a contender now, but you come out, you play a solid game, things to build off of. We talked about it last post-game show. You had that 8-game stretch against 8 straight teams that are in the playoffs. And outside of that embarrassing game in Florida, you played 7 solid games. You got 7 points in those 7 games.
Yeah.
And now you very easily could have been, hey, Nashville, not a playoff team. We could take a breath here. But they didn't.
No.
They played the same way they played against Edmonton. Consistency, which we have not seen a lot from this team from game to game. Barely from period to period, but 3 solid periods. They get the win. And you look at those some of those guys that are contributing, Bedard, Nazar, Vlasic with a pair of assists, Slaggert, very noticeable tonight. Lucas Reichel had a real good game.
Didn't even mention him yet. Yeah.
That 4th line, again, the best line the Blackhawks have had all season.
And they took that assist away from Reichel.
Because it was Johnny McBumblestein, whatever that guy's
Nick Blankenberg.
The guy that had maybe the worst hockey ship at the United Center this year, and that's saying a lot.
That is saying something.
Where he sits on his goalie and then gives the puck to Pat Maroon and then continues to sit on his goalie as the puck goes over his head.
Let me scoot back a little closer to you, you see how this works.
Yeah, that was
not well.
Hey, good news, though, for him. Milwaukee is only 90 miles away from here, so it's a quick trip back to the AHL.
He had a nice game otherwise. Had an assist, 4 shots on goal.
Sure he did.
7 shot attempts. Nick Blankenberg. What a night. What a night at the office for good old Nick Blankenberg. Good old number 37.
Predators legend.
Pat Maroon is like, there were so many guys who played well. Maroon could easily have had 2 goals today. He has 3 on the season. He slams a stick off the boards after getting kind of an alone look right in front there, and Saros makes the save. It's just, it's just so rare that we get to praise everybody. Who can we rip on? We got to find someone to rip on. I did not like the facial expressions of Arvid Soderblom on the bench there. He did not celebrate all 6 goals enough.
I'm gonna rip on Derek King. It's a tradition around.
Oh, yeah, it's his fault. It's his fault. It wasn't 6-1 or 7-2. Yeah, that's easily his fault. I know we want to get into the Ryan Donato thing a little bit later in the show. It is a hot topic on the old social medias right now. But we'll get into that a little bit more. Connor Murphy's another guy who spoke before this game and starting to feel a little bit better. And I know that there is a hunger to see this team go young, and I'm there. I know you were there, but I think when you've got games like you do give up that tying goal 19 seconds later, to have that little bit of a veteran presence out there, a guy who can, it's not just him, but he's among the bigger leaders on the team to sort of slow things down, stabilize things, keep the bench calm. Veterans do still have value here. And I'm not saying they should, based on this game alone, scrap their plans to go young next year. Absolutely not. But these are the benefits you can have, when you're not looking at it like an NHL 25 roster. There is value to these guys. Yeah,
for sure. And I know Elliot Friedman said earlier this week that there are, quote, plenty of eyes on Donato, Murphy, and Jones. So, I mean, we'll see, but you don't have to trade everybody. At some point, you need to have some continuality, some continuity here.
You got it. You found it.
But what did Troy said something like that too?
He did. Yeah,
he said admirable,
admire nation or something.
Yeah,
like that.
admire. Yeah, that one's for Troy.
That's how you say in Canada.
Yeah.
All right, we got to hit the break zone. Back with a whole bunch more. If you've not hit that like button, please make sure you do that for us and get your votes in for the 4th star of the game. Back in a moment on the CHGO Blackhawks postgame show. But if you're looking for a perfect way to elevate your day, Verilife Dispensary has everything you need, from premium cannabis products to expert advice. Whether you're new to cannabis or a connoisseur, their knowledgeable bud tenders are there to help you. Verilife has 8 convenient locations across Illinois, so discovering your perfect experience has never been easier. And Verilife proudly offers a price match guarantee, ensuring you get the best value by matching local competitors' prices on eligible products. Don't miss out on our latest deals and exclusive offers only at Verilife Cannabis stores and online at verilife.com. And we've got that code, CHGO25. You use that, you're going to get 25% off one regular priced item. You place your order online or you walk into a Verilife location, just say, hey, I've got a promo code, CHGO25, and they will apply it to your order in store. So check them out at any of their 8 convenient Chicagoland locations or online at verilife.com. And hey, you may have heard, everybody, there's a large football matchup on Sunday. Yeah. And if you want to place a wager on said football matchup, there's no better place to do it than Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every damn game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game, Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Joey, I know we've got several super chats, so why don't we start knocking some of those out? That is as we do, as is tradition. Edward first with a $10 super chat says, the same way the Panthers game showed the talent difference between the Hawks and a championship team, this game showed the difference between the Hawks and a truly bad team. It's interesting.
There were 2 bad teams on the ice tonight, but one of them was better than the other.
I mean, I think we've all contended this year that the Blackhawks' performance does not match their roster. I think you could multiply that by 10 for Nashville.
But as you have said multiple times, when the Hawks stick to their structure, they're a much better hockey team.
Way better.
And the last 2 games, they've been structured.
And are they finally getting that message? I mean, for whatever reason, they tuned out Luke Richardson. I think maybe out of boredom with his system because it was so low event. And then it took some time to adjust to Sorensen, and we saw some really lopsided losses.
Yeah, right around the end of the year, leading up to the Winter Classic was bad. But
as you mentioned, the last stretch here, and against some pretty damn good teams, they're starting to come around. It's a shame it took until February of 2025 to figure things out.
I love the fact that they're getting all this momentum, playing their best hockey, to go sit for 2 weeks.
Yeah, precisely. Windy City Hockey, who we saw at the game today, says, looks like my dad and I have to wear international jerseys from now on.
Yep.
Yeah, his dad, Windy City Hockey's dad, was wearing a Canada Crawford jersey, and Windy City had a Slovakia Hossa jersey, and I told them I'm wearing women's underwear tonight to change up the luck. So I guess we got to stick with it.
Ooh la la.
Yeah.
Rose in the front, pal.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, you do have to keep wearing those international jerseys. I'm sure you have.
And a women's underwear.
60 or 70 of them.
Windy City Hockey has. We need to have an intervention.
All the jerseys.
He has all the jerseys.
All of them.
Keith, as my voice cracks, $5 says, I love that I can actually see Nazar and Slaggert's speed lead to the opposition turnovers. Can you go back to that? Sorry, I can't read that. That's all right. Something we didn't hardly ever see the first half of the year. Yeah, I mean, look, speed is massively important. And if you lack a little bit skill-wise, and I'm not saying that about Slaggert or Nazar, but just look at what speed has done for guys like Andreas Athanasiou, Victor Stahlberg. Like, just because they're fast,
William McCann,
they get a chance to stay in the league.
Right.
And it also, it's going to make you a better player. And keep in mind, like, while this team this year, especially in the first half before the arrival of Nazar and Slager, looks slow, the guys that Davidson's been drafting, for the most part, speed is one of their top attributes.
Yes. If you like watching fast guys force the opponent into making mistakes, get used to it, because there's a lot of speed coming.
Yeah.
A lot of speed.
It's very exciting. All right, before Mario joins us, let's have a little bit of this Ryan Donato conversation. I have been team extend Donato for some time. I know you're kind of
No, I've been definitely wanting to extend him, but let's face facts here. His trade value is never going to be higher than it is right now. Now, that's not necessarily the reason to go ahead and trade a guy, but you've got a building with 18 scouts. You got a lot of teams, as I mentioned, Elliot Friedman says plenty of eyes on those guys. I know the Ottawa Senators have been looking. You've got to imagine a team like Colorado, who had scouts there tonight, would like him. Toronto on their bottom six.
Carolina looking to move on from Mikko Rantanen.
Sure. I mean, he's only got one goal so far, so might as well send him back. Blackhawks legend Mikko Rantanen.
Send him back to the Hawks.
Maybe we'll keep him longer than 3 minutes this time. But so it's not there's a lot of gray in this area, because while you have this, he's having a great season. Career highs in points, goals, assists, all that. And he plays the exact kind of way you want. You want to be your team to be an identity of having to be hard to play against, and he is very hard to play against. The improvement he's made from this year, from last year, is amazing. Well liked by his teammates, all that stuff. There's a million reasons to re-sign him.
Yep.
And 3 weeks ago, when I figured, hey, the best you're going to do is a 3rd-round pick for him, no, you don't trade him. You try and re-sign him. But I think that price has gone up.
Well, and this is a question. So what is the minimum you are willing to accept for Ryan Donato?
Here's what I'm looking for Ryan Donato. Go get your Chris Versteeg. Go get your Patrick Sharp. Screw draft picks. Go get a young player. Go get a 22-year-old Ryan Donato.
Sure. So Landon Slager.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
You need to start getting actual NHL players. So, we're getting to that point of the rebuild where, the Dynasty Hawks started going out and getting some of those guys. Your Matt Ellisons for Patrick Sharp. That was a know-nothing trade at the time. When you traded Versteeg, was it?
God, who was
Samsonov?
I think it was Sergei Samsonov.
And there was somebody else, Brendan
Bochenski?
Yes, I believe that's what it was.
Wow.
But those are the type of trades you might want to look for. So, okay, 2nd-round pick. We've already got a ton of those. Go get that guy that's ready to be an NHL player for the rest of this season and years advance. That's what I would do.
They got him from Boston the first time?
Boston,
Toronto.
Boston. Versteeg was from
Boston.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's what I would do. And you don't have to trade Ryan Donato. If there's been conversations with, him saying, hey, I would think if they weren't going to extend them, they would have done it already. Just like they did with Dickinson, Foligno, and Mrazek last year. They did that at the end of the January.
Yeah.
To take them off the board, to be like, hey, you don't have to worry about trade rumors. You can relax. You're staying here. I think they would have done that if they were truly looking to keep him.
Yeah.
Maybe this is one of those things where you trade him and bring him back. And as great as Ryan Donato has been, I always get a little worried about a 28-year-old, soon-to-be 29-year-old having a breakout season.
I get that.
Does he become, you give him, remember 2 years ago, Andreas Athanasiou scored 20 goals because somebody had to? Is this a case of that?
Maybe. But
is he going to do this every year?
But
I don't know.
The difference between Donato and Athanasiou is the fact that Donato can do something else.
True.
He can play center, can play wing.
They're
can
not
be
the same player.
Yeah, he can be effective up and so even if he does not produce I think he's on pace for 56 points this year. Even if he's not a 56-point player, I'm comfortable saying he's a 35-point player. And if he's doing that on your third or fourth line, while Nazar and Bedard and Doc and maybe Oliver Moore and eventually Boisvert and whoever you draft this year, Michael Misa, Parker Martone, whoever it might be, are on your top 6, then you move him down. You're only going to give him a 2-3 year deal.
Well, he also see. This is another thing we have to we always talk about. What do the Blackhawks should do? What the Blackhawks want to do here? What does Ryan Donato want to do?
He just had a baby. I think he wants stability, and if you offer him a 2 or 3 year deal,
he might.
I don't know if I want to give him 3, but
he also might be thinking, and his agent might be thinking, "You're having a career year, dude. Hit the open market, take advantage of it. The salary cap is going up. Don't settle for a 2-year, $6 million deal. We can get you 3. What's better stability? Getting a 4-year deal on the open market or playing another 2 years in Chicago?"
So I'm actually writing about this for allchgo.com. It'll be up either after the game or in the morning. But I found this thing that was written earlier or last month by Jacob Billington from thehockeywriters.com. You've heard of that website?
Once or twice, yeah.
Yeah. He did crunch the numbers for third round picks and second round picks. So second round picks, 68% of them play one NHL game, like they make it to the NHL. To get to 100 games, 68%. 100 games drops to 40%. 300 games drops to 25%. That's second round. Third round picks, 52% play one game or more. 28% play 100. 17% play 300. It's a lottery ticket. And my thought is, so you trade Ryan Donato for a second or third round pick, right? Maybe you get a guy as good as Ryan Donato 8 years from now. I think there's so much value in having veteran continuity, a guy who sets a great example for the young players on, hey, I was 28 years old entering this year. I was told in the offseason I needed to work on my skating. I did it, and it made me a significantly better player. And it takes guys long. Some guys take longer to develop than others. You're probably right. Ryan Donato was probably not a 56-point player as his career goes on. But I just think it sends a message to the team, too, that, look, if you work hard, if you do everything right, if you're a willing guy who accepts his role. I mean, how many times have we heard Troy Murray, it was Eddie O who always used to say that. Accept and execute. Right. Accept your role and execute it. And whatever role Ryan Donato's been handed on this team, he has accepted it and executed it to perfection.
Right.
Play on the first line, gotcha. I'll give you a 4-point night. Play on the third or fourth line, gotcha. I will defend. I will penalty kill. I'll do everything you need me to do. Whatever you need, I'm here. So I think guys look around that room and see a guy like that, and he's traded for a third-round pick, and it's like, okay, another third-round pick to stockpile of our 7 million third-round picks that might turn into something and might not. I think we have to think more often about how will the guys in the room feel losing a player like this. And I think that matters. And if you listen to veteran players talk, be it, Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno were on What Chaos, Pat Maroon's been making the rounds on podcasts lately, and they all talk about earlier in their career the value of having veterans around to show them the way. And we can say, we want the Hawks to be as young as possible next year. Ryan Donato is under 30 years old. He does everything you want him to do. If I'm prioritizing a veteran, it's Ryan Donato.
No, everything you said there is spot on, and I agree with all of it. And if you do bring him back for 2-3 more years, ideally, you don't need him to be a 56-point player through the duration of that contract. You're going to be better. So I would love to keep him beyond this season, but if they could, that's why I say don't trade him for a third. Set the price high, and if you don't get it, you don't have to trade him. And you don't have to trade any of these guys, any of those guys that, you don't have to trade Connor Murphy. You certainly don't have to trade Seth Jones. So get your idea of what you want. Anything less than that, no, we're moving on.
So just real quick, Mario's standing by. We got to hit the break zone, and we will in a second. But Someone in the chat earlier mentioned the Michael Granlund trade. Michael Granlund traded from the Sharks to the Stars for a first-round pick and a conditional third. Cody Ceci also went from San Jose to Dallas, who's like Connor Murphy, right? Now, Michael Granlund is a better player than Ryan Donato.
Yes.
Michael Granlund has had several 60-point seasons in his career. He's older. He's 32, but he's more proven. He's more of a scorer than Ryan Donato is. But if you're talking about maybe packaging Ryan Donato with another asset to increase that value to a first-round pick, fine. But again, you got to think about this. If it's a second, it's going to be a bottom half of the second-round pick.
Right.
It's not going to be a top of the second-round pick.
We also have to remember, though, with all these picks they have stockpiled, they can use that bottom half of the second-round draft pick to move up, to trade, to get other guys. So you can get the second-round pick you got for Donato and then package that with one of your young defensemen to get that center you need for your third line. Like there's a million different options. It's a tough decision, but as it said, if I'm Kyle Davidson, I set my price for all those guys, and if I don't get it, I don't trade them. I mean, I would rather get a young player for Ryan Donato than a draft pick.
And I think it was Scott Powers who wrote a little bit ago that they're not super interested in adding other teams' prospects, which...
I mean, I'd rather, you look at Pittsburgh. They went out and got, Phil Tomasino from the Predators. He's worked out pretty well. They went and got Cody Glass.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Yep.
Wouldn't hurt. But we'll see. Like, when it comes to Murphy and Jones, they still have term. There's really no need. You don't have to trade those guys.
Yeah.
So set your price. If you don't get it, you don't make the trade. We've seen Davidson do that before. Now, other guys on this team, Pat Maroon, Craig Smith, Alec Martinez, take what you get.
That. Extend Maroon 5 years. There also, we need to consider, too, Ryan Donato may have already told Kyle Davidson, I am exploring free agency.
Right.
So that is a possibility.
We keep that. We don't mention that factor enough.
Yes.
What does Ryan Donato want to do?
Exactly.
Like, we're not in his head.
And what would Brian Boitano do?
He would blame Canada.
All right. We got to hit the break zone. Mario is standing by at the United Center. More to come on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Hit the like button. What was the locker room like, Mario?
Well, I don't need to tell you about Frank Nazar.
I heard a rumor Frank Nazar spoke twice.
He spoke a lot.
He just wanted to reiterate his thoughts after the game. He's like, guys, can you come back in?
Couldn't get him to shut up, really. Yeah, I mean, the locker room, I mean, they won 6-2. They won handily. Like, you had the big guys producing and really showing up for the team. So, like, it was great vibes in there. They're cheering, handing out the tool belt. They're, playing. Couldn't catch what song it was, but it was a, pretty hip hop song. Probably Kendrick Lamar. I don't know. I couldn't recognize it, but I mean, they were all in a good mood. Seth Jones was complimenting Ryan Donato's game. Everybody was complimenting Ryan Donato's game tonight. Whether it was Jones, Nazar, Anders Sorensen, like, everyone had some really great things to say about, what he's done this season, the role that he's played, what he's meant to the team, and then just specifically tonight, like, Seth Jones said that Donato was hotter than burnt toast. I don't think Seth Jones has any kids, but that's a quality dad joke. I mean, it was great when you have a game like this where you come away 6-2 against a Nashville team they're in a slump and they're only one spot ahead of you in the standings. Like, this is a game that they needed to have a result like this. Like, the way that they've been playing against teams that have been in playoff spots, like, they needed to get a win over a team that they match up evenly with, and to get it in this fashion, like, everybody's feeling good tonight.
For sure. I'm kind of bummed that it wasn't Simply the Best by Tina Turner. That's usually that's what they've played the other 4 times they've won at the United Center this year. Interesting.
Yeah, someone else might have had the aux cord tonight.
Yeah, they didn't let Nick Foligno pick the song tonight.
Probably a good move.
Yeah, because there's no doubt in my mind that's a Nick Foligno choice. Interesting way the game went down. tonight, with Jason Dickinson not there. You put Frank Nazar in his spot on that line in between Tavo and Mikheyev, but they weren't the, quote, shutdown line tonight. They didn't get the tough assignment against the Stamkos-Forsberg line. That was the Connor Bedard line. And as I said earlier, probably has a lot to do with his two line mates as well. If it was Bertuzzi and Nazar, but did Anders Sorensen pat himself on the back for that, and because they did play well against McDavid, so why not give it another roll?
Yeah, Anders addressed that after the game and basically said that he had a conversation with Connor about the Oilers game coming up and then tonight's game, and saying that Connor wanted those matchups. He wanted that challenge, and he wanted to be able to go up against each team's best players. Like when you're, as Sorensen said, like when you're the number one center on your team, you're going to go up against other number one centers on the opposition. So, Bedard was up for the challenge. And then you add in two guys that play the way that both Landon Slaggert and Ryan Donato do. They're aggressive. They play with speed. They finish their checks. Like that's a good way, a good style that, a guy like Jason Dickinson plays with. Guys that usually get those tough defensive matchups. So, both on the defensive side and offensive side, like those guys created some space for, in the case for Ryan Donato, like he took advantage of it. Connor Bedard took advantage of it. And then, they were great, defensively tonight, and same thing in the Edmonton game. So that trio has been doing really well, and they didn't have to be sheltered from any matchups. Like it seemed as if they stepped up and were aggressive to want to play in those situations.
Yeah, I was kind of curious as to how Bedard would come out in this game after just being in the news for pretty much the last 2-3 days, and probably wanted to prove a little bit today. And I gotta say, like, he had 2 points today. But I thought that his last game against Edmonton was better.
Well,
it's not all about the points all the time.
He had that move late in the first period.
Oh my God!
Where he danced around a couple defenders and nearly put it through the armpit of Saros, but the extra large goalie jersey saved that one from going in the net. And then that one timer that he scored on, holy smokes, that was an absolute bomb. I didn't even see the puck when it left his stick, and neither did UC Saros either. But that's what I want to see more from Connor Bedard, is that get to that Alex Ovechkin, Alex Brinkett spot of the ice and just boom, let it go. I mean, I know he's more of a facilitator on the power play. He's the guy that kind of, you need Bedard to be mobile. Him standing still doesn't make a lot of sense on the power play, but every once in a while, I want to see that one timer more.
Well, I'm just glad that his stick held up.
This is true.
There's been several where he's tried, and the unsure would snapped off.
Maybe he put a Bauer sticker over the shore, or he put a Shoreward sticker over the Bauer logo.
Hey, I still got that big wood beast over there if he wants to borrow it.
That thing weighs more.
It does weigh a Connor Bedard. It is 10 million flex.
It was great to see him, have the kind of game that he did tonight. He stepped up in ways that he basically has all season. But when you have other players on the team too, like, then this is part of that bigger conversation that has swept the nation. When you have a player like him with a supporting cast that is, playing up to their supporting roles, things can go better, and you can have better games where you're playing off of guys a little bit more, and you're not trying to do so much yourself because everyone else is pulling their own weight. And not, does Ryan Donato have to have a 4-point night every game for that to happen? It shouldn't be. But when you have a game like that where Donato is on and Frank Nazar is on, and Landon Slaggert's contributing in other facets of the game. You have Alex Vlasic have a really good night offensively. Seth Jones chips in a goal. Like, when you have all these other guys, pulling some weight, like, it takes a little bit off of Bedard, and he's able to capitalize on when some teams might have to worry about somebody else on the team. You give him an inch and he can take a mile.
Look, it's no coincidence that Connor Bedard started playing his best hockey when he was put on line with better players. It was for a while. It was with just him and Bertuzzi were clicking like crazy.
Yeah.
Then Nazar joins that line, and then they look good together. And now I think he's starting to trust Ryan Donato to finish the things that he creates. Landon Slager's in there digging out pucks for both of them, and guess what? He can score a little bit on his own too. Like it's there. I don't think it's a coincidence that Connor Bedard is playing his best hockey because he's got guys that complement him.
Yeah, and that only makes the necessity of getting higher caliber players around him in more abundance. That's even more of a key as you move forward through the rest of this year and into the off season for Kyle Davidson. Is just like you continually have to try and improve your roster that way to help Bedard, and it's going to help everyone else too. Like you look at the young guys that they're going to invest in over the next few years. Like if you have someone or two players like in that higher level top tier NHL caliber player, like it's going to push everybody forward, and especially it's going to push Bedard. And as we've said, basically, since he got here, like as Bedard goes, it's how this team is going to go until there's a group reminiscent of the 2010s Hawks, which you can't just snap your fingers and replicate that. But unless there is a group like that, Bedard is still going to be the main focal point. So getting him more support and more players that can complement his game in different ways or play up to his level and see the game the way he does and so on. His play is going to continue to improve that way.
For sure. And we were talking earlier about Connor Murphy being back and how that's kind of helped solidify the back end. And when you look at a guy like Vlasic and his game tonight, we saw him more offensively tonight. I know I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not blaming Louis Crevier.
Yeah.
But Vlasic is a guy that's been kind of fighting it for the last couple of weeks. And some of that might have been being paired with a more inexperienced guy in Crevier who held his own and who played fine, played well on some nights. But he might have been in his own head thinking, I've got to do more, and that actually forced him into more mistakes. Now he's back with Murphy, kind of his safety net, a guy that he knows to be in the right places, and you see him make that play tonight to set up Nazar's first goal. He stepped up in the neutral zone for Donato's second goal to give him the little chip pass there. So having a guy like Connor Murphy back helps Alex Vlasic too. Yeah,
absolutely. I think again, it goes to that, like, the yin and yang of defensemen, where if you have someone who's a little bit more offensive minded, you pair them with someone who's a little bit more defensively sound, and they can complement each other. Like one guy can cover for the other, and it can allow for the guy that's going to produce more offense a little bit more freedom. We saw when Vlasic and Jones were paired together at times this season and last year, where Jones was playing well, but it kind of felt like Alex Vlasic had more to offer, and then they split him up, and lo and behold, like Alex Vlasic's been able to kind of expand his game. So now you pair him with a guy like Connor Murphy, who's definitely a defensively minded, defense first kind of guy. That allows Vlasic to, while still having the defensive game that he has, allows him to open up a little bit more offensively as well. So hopefully that can, if that pairing continues, hopefully you see a little bit more out of Vlasic, and that can boost his confidence.
Yeah, and I think, just to kind of piggyback on Greg's point too, like there's so much happening in the course of a hockey game that, and I've said this all year, like the coaching staff, whether it was Richardson or Sorensen, they see things that we will never see. They understand things that we will never understand. And like those little things, like maybe Crevier, hey, look, he's finishing checks, putting some pucks in the net. End of the game, his numbers look pretty good, but there can still be those moments, and not just him, any young defenseman, where they were a little slow to read that play, and then Vlasic's the one who has to kind of make up for it, and it looks like he's the one getting toasted, but it's actually not him. it was a blown assignment by a young player or whoever you want to say the young player is. Murphy's a guy who will more often than not make, or at least be in position to make, the right play. Now, he's not the fastest guy, so he might get beat. He'll, sometimes he'll just lose the battle. But in terms of knowing where to be, knowing the system, knowing his responsibility, that's something that he's got over these young guys. And I think, Greg, that's a great point you made to say that I don't think it's a coincidence that Vlasic suddenly looks better now that he's with Murphy.
Yeah, and I think that's probably another reason, very unpopular though, that TJ Brody's in the lineup every night. Now, Granted, he hasn't been great. He's been
a lot better lately.
He's not
good. He's fine.
He's
your sixth defenseman,
right? Which is what he should be. But coaches, as you mentioned, they see those things. He knows how to read plays better. He knows where to be, most times. Now, he's not as fast to get there as he used to be. He's not very good at one-on-one battles anymore, but I think coaches will trust a guy's whose instincts, who's done it longer than a guy, if you had Del Mastro and Allen back there every night. At some point, you have to let those kids do it, but that's the same reasoning we keep seeing Brody every night. Because every time I post a lineup from practice or from a morning skate, like clockwork, the first question is, why is TJ Brody still playing? That's probably why.
100%. All right, before we let you go, Mario, anything else we need to know?
Yeah, I mean, the theme of the night is Ryan Donato, and the performance he had. Talking after the game, Seth Jones was talked about how he's played and the role that he plays, and being one of the veterans of the team, and Frank Nazar spoke about the kind of the mentorship and the way that Donato plays and how that can rub off on other guys. Just whether you're a veteran or a young player like that, how that can be infectious. And, Donato after the game talking about wanting, his role on the team and the role he plays in kind of setting the culture and how he wants to embrace that. And it was just interesting to hear, given the situation that he's in, where he's having his career best year production wise. He's hotter than burnt toast, as Seth Jones said. And he's on all these, trade boards, rumors, trade watch, all that stuff. It really kind of puts the Blackhawks with Ryan Donato kind of under the microscope of what do you do with him? Do you value his production, the role that he plays, the, way that he plays and how that can rub off on the rest of the guys in the locker room, especially the young guys coming up? Or do you value selling high on him as best as possible and trying to set yourself up for, taking advantage of a guy that's having a career year, who's on an expiring deal, who's very cheap, and if you're wanting to open up spots for young guys and give yourself maybe some draft capital to play with, either by picking another player or packaging picks to improve draft capital or draft position. It's an interesting spot to be in with Donato and what he provides to the Hawks. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out once we get back from the Four Nations tournament, the break. It's basically a 2-week sprint to March 7th, and Cal Davidson's got a decision to make on Donato for sure.
All right, Mario, thanks for all your contributions. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, see you guys.
All right, that's Mario Tirabassi live from the United Center. Got a few minutes left to go in the show. Do us a favor, make sure you hit that like button for us. We are right over 200. We appreciate that very, very much. Let's keep it going, though. Let's fill that like button, fill that like meter with likes. That would be great. I know we've got to get to the 4-star of the game here. I'm going to go see if we have a winner just yet. Who's your prediction, Greg? Who do you think we got? I think it's going Bedard.
I think tonight's 4-star is gonna wind up on a frozen pond somewhere playing pond hockey.
Well, you're correct. I'm looking at it right now, and with 69% of the votes, it is indeed Connor Bedard.
Stop the fight.
Yeah, Connor Bedard ended the game, as you know, with a goal and an assist. I want to recap the numbers. +2, 3 shots on goal, a hit, 4 wins and 4 losses for the faceoff dot for 50%. And I believe that is 4 of his last 5 games. Don't quote me, but it's something like that. 4 of his last 5 games, he is 50% or higher from the faceoff dot. So he's coming around in that regard. And this sort of goes to, what we've been talking about with the defensive struggles he's had. He works his ass off at everything. If there's an element of his game that he is struggling at, he is going to work his ass off to get better at it. He's doing the same thing with faceoffs, and that's a great sign, man. He's the hardest working guy in the team. Pat Maroon said it yesterday on the Morning Cuppa podcast on Daily Faceoff. Yeah, he's if there's something lacking, Connor Bedard's going to do everything he can to improve it.
Yeah, it is. He had a real rough stretch. That game against Minnesota on the 26th of January, he went 0 for 5 on the faceoffs. Since then, 83%, 42.9%, 63.6%, 61.5%. And that doesn't include tonight's game.
Tonight's exactly 50.
Yeah, so that's 4 out of the last 5 at 50% or better. And even that worst one is 42.9. If you get Connor Bedard to be 42.9 for the rest of this season, that's huge.
Fine. You can live with that.
Yeah. So as Anders Sorensen said yesterday, when asked about this criticism about Bedard, he wants to be the best player on the team. He wants to be the best player in the league. And he's going to do everything he can to do that. The work, as we've said a million times, the work ethic is there. He'll put it in. Things are improving. And you know what? I hope these guys, Marc Messier, Paul Bissonnette, whoever's next, I hope they keep doing these things.
Yeah.
Because it seems to be motivating him.
Yeah.
He says he doesn't pay attention to that. That's a load of crap. It's motivation.
Well, I mean, even if he doesn't, he's going to be asked about it every time.
He hears about it either from us or his buddies are sending him those clips.
Yes.
He's in the age group that loves Biz and his stuff. So he's hearing it. His buddies are chirping him back home. Oh, Biz says you suck. He hears it.
Yep.
Connor Bedard with a chip on his shoulder. I am here for it.
Yeah, good luck.
I'm also here for it because over at Chicago Hockey Now, where you can find all my written material, those Connor Bedard criticism articles, lots of people are reading those. So
interesting.
So keep going. Somebody also had a question earlier. I don't want personal stuff here, but the Substack, I paused the billing on that. So if you were a subscriber to that, thank you. But I've paused. You won't be getting charged renewals for it. I haven't decided what I'm doing with it permanently. But if you signed up for the paid stuff, you won't be getting charged for that.
Good.
Until I actually start writing again. There.
Beautiful. I know we had a super chat we want to get to before we wrap up the show, too. So if you could throw that up there. It is from Nico. Nico says, what's the most important thing you want to see out of the team to end the season? That's $5. Maximize your trade assets. Get as many young players, NHL experience as you can. I'm excited to see, the 3 or 4 games that guys like Oliver Moore and Aiden Thompson and that list of players, Sam Renzel, might get here when their college seasons end.
Yeah, depending on how far they go. Those are all good things to look for. The most important thing from here on out is what Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, the young defenseman, Landon Slaggert, the young guys, the guys who are going to be key players when this team is good again. You want them to keep taking strides. You want them to not just have 1 out of every 5 games be good. You want them to be good every night. You want them to have some progress here. And we're starting to see that. They've been the best players on this team on a nightly basis for a few games now. Keep that going. That's the most important. Those future players. It's not it's not what Craig Smith and Pat Maroon are doing. It's what those guys are doing and the young guys that are coming up. Like we're starting to see the patience get rewarded with results.
100%. All right, we're going to wrap things up. We are back tomorrow. Hawks in St. Louis, puck drop at 6:00. No pregame tomorrow. We do not have enough producers right now to do a pregame show, so we'll be back postgame after Hawks and Blues. Remember, they're wearing the Winter Classic jerseys, uniforms tomorrow. So are the Blues. Hey, they got to right the ship, man. Those are too pretty to have that horrible memory tied to it. So.
Yeah, if they win the 3 games that they're going to wear them to, then okay.
100%. They gotta change the mojo on those jerseys because they are sick.
Well, they're not playing outdoors. That's a start.
Yeah, as far as we know.
The Blackhawks, historically, much better team indoors than outdoors.
Correct. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to Joey for producing the show today. We appreciate that. And we'll talk to everybody tomorrow after Hawks and Blues right here on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.